From Spruce Labs, I'm Taylor Romero, your host of the Guest First Movement podcast, an audio and video showcase dedicated to the philosophy of the guest experience, to retail, and how it can be made or broken by technology. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about self-driving cars. Okay, so before we get into the impact self-driving cars can have, and will probably have, I'd like to talk a little bit about the smartphone. We've all seen photos of concerts where at one point it was all lighters. Today it's all cell phones. We've seen photos and heard so many stories of people with their head buried in their cell phone, car accidents because people texting. These are all the obvious impacts of the smartphone. But what's really interesting is to think about some of the non-obvious impacts of the smartphone. Do you remember walking down the street and someone in a car pulling over and asking for directions? Or do you remember that when you were driving somewhere and you needed to follow a friend, so you had to be very careful to go through the stoplight with them, to stay close enough that no cars got in between you? Think about how the smartphone impacted just local travel alone and how entire experiences around supporting someone for directions or having to tail a friend in a car to ensure that you both get through the red light at the same time, how a lot of these things just went away. And we don't talk about it a lot because it's really hard to point your finger at things that are no longer there. It's much easier to point at the car accidents or people with their head buried in the phone. But we're not really talking about a lot of the things the smartphone eliminated from our life because it's just not part of our life anymore. Self-driving cars is going to be a lot like this. There's the obvious, right? That you're going to get to hang out in a car while it drives you places. But here's some things to consider. If a car can get itself from point A to point B, then a car goes from a product, something that you purchase to own and utilize, to more of a service, and very similar to taxis or Uber today, minus the driver. So if you think about it, if we can eliminate people from this process, the driving of the vehicle, the navigating, and it can be done in an automated fashion, well then that means the cost of travel in someone else's vehicle, in a vehicle you do not own, is going to drop several magnitudes. And that probably self-driving car companies and self-driving taxis will only need to charge you for the gas plus an upcharge plus maybe a convenience fee and whatever else they throw in. But the point is, because you're not supporting a human anymore to actually drive you places, that the cost is going to go way down. And so what that means for car ownership is going to be a totally different world. So it's going to be very obvious that when we're in a self-driving car that we're not touching the wheel. But what might be more subtle is that car ownership goes away. Not to those who drive as a hobby, those who drive as a sport, but that car ownership at least drops significantly to those driving for the means of getting from point A to point B will probably be automated. And that means you probably won't need a car. Even today in city living, a lot of people are moving to bikes. And if you were following the scooter rage that's happening these days with Lime and Bird and all these scooter companies, they're changing transportation. But what's really going to be a change is when you can open up an app, you can order a ride, the car arrives, you get in, there's no other human, there's no people, and you're charged a few cents per mile to cover gas. But this is going to have insane impacts to business and to retail specifically. So there's this concept in shipping, right? They call it the last mile. And the last mile is a concept in shipping and logistics that's the idea of how do you get merchandise, products from the warehouse to the person who ordered it. So to take a step back, when you order something online and the product is shipped to your local warehouse, that kind of transportation, the logistics companies are really good at. It's moving things from one place to another. When it comes to the last mile, the difficulty that companies like FedEx and UPS and USPS have to solve is how do we take it from that last warehouse to n number of destinations? And if you think about it, self-driving cars are going to change the game there. And I think they're going to change the games in ways that we might not expect. So for example, you're a small boutique, you want to offer shipping. So you let someone order through your website, and one of the drop-down options, you've got like overnight shipping, same-day shipping, self-driving shipping. And now what happens as a small business is you can allow someone, dog walking around, clickety-clack, clickety-clack. Maybe get them through the door. Click, 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 click. So picture this. You go to Picture this. You're a small retailer, you have a website, you allow people to order off your website. One of those new drop-down options for shipping are the self-driving option, and it's very cheap. In fact, a lot of businesses might be able to offer free shipping now in ways they haven't before. So you're a small business, an order comes in through the website, you pull the product off the shelf or you pull it from your inventory, you enter into the self-driving app your location, the location of the person who made the order, and within 15 minutes a car drives up, you load the product in, the car closes and drives off. And what this is going to allow is essentially a leveling of the playing field when it comes to the last mile. And now that small businesses are going to be able to offer that type of shipping and that type of response time, and it's going to all be automated, is really going to change the game a lot. And it's going to eliminate one of the huge differentiators that Amazon has today. And a small business being able to deliver that, and it doesn't even have to be a local. You could have a self-driving car come the minute that a purchase is made, and that actually leads me into the idea of APIs. So if you're unfamiliar with an API, it stands for Application Programming Interface. And what that means is that it actually allows machines to talk to machines. So now picture this. Instead of when somebody orders something off your website, you go into the Uber self-driving app and enter in point A and point B and have it come. Picture that when someone orders off the website, an API request is made to an Uber or a delivery company, and immediately the self-driving car kicks off and within 15 minutes just arrives at your business where you deliver the product right in, it takes off, it drives it to the destination, the person who made the purchase gets an alert, your stuff's here, run on out and grab it. Or the ability, even in that scenario, so you've had this happen, you order a pizza, but you forgot to select the address that you're actually at. Accidentally choose the last address you ordered, right? Gets very, very iffy around the tip situation in that too, because it's kind of your bad for not choosing the right tip option or the right destination, and so you feel like you got to make that up to the human, because humans consume time and can never get it back, and a machine doesn't necessarily care about that. So you could actually order something on a website from a small business. The API request is made to the self-driving delivery logistics company. The car arrives at the small business. The business owner or some of the teammates run out, drop the product off. It takes off, drives to the person's house, alerts the person that it's at the house, and the person responds with, "Oh no, I'm actually at work right now." Car just starts again, heads to work, has no opinion, no frustration, maybe an extra few bucks to cover the gas, because shipping can now be calculated very precisely since there's not a human element to it and we don't have to figure in salaries and benefits and all these pieces. So now we have a situation where you're going to get the things that you want faster from everybody, and you're going to be able to make last minute changes and decisions without significantly impacting the shipping. I don't think anybody's really got a problem with a self-driving car driving around town trying to find you, whereas a human being trying to do that is frustrating, aggravating, and pretty expensive. But it's more than just the last mile where things are going to be impacted. So picture at-home services. So let's say you run a salon and your self-driving car is a salon. It's got a chair, it's got a sink. There's a few ways that you could play this. You could allow the self-driving car to be manned by a human, and that person can ride with the car to its destination, not have to worry about anything, playing on Instagram and Snapchat. And when they get to the destination, the person can come out of their house and come into the vehicle and have a service, a hair color, cut, dye, shaved. What's really cool to think about is, let's say you run a salon and somebody requests an at-home service and the stylist is running late. You could actually send the vehicle to the client's house to meet the stylist there, instead of the stylist having to come to work, jump in this car, and be taken to a destination. So what you could do is you could have one mobile salon set to visit different destinations, and you could have local stylists be performing the services versus one stylist having to stay in the vehicle and travel about town. Because it's going to be so cost effective, it will more than likely turn the concept of a mobile salon or a mobile barbershop into something much more tangible and accessible. Because if you think about it also, get rid of the driver's seat, get rid of the passenger seat, and your entire vehicle now, every square foot is dedicated to revenue generating services or products, not actually having to navigate and transport the vehicle. And then without a doubt, a fast follow to this will be automated gas stations. So a self-driving car can go, drive up, plug in, fuel up, and leave, where a human won't even need to be present at all. Now picture this too. Picture you own a fashion retailer and you want to provide a consultation service for your guests. So what you could do is you could have somebody book an appointment online for a style consultation. You could have that person's profile delivered to your style consultant who can pick out clothes off the shelf. So thinking Nordstrom's or even Spruce at this point, pick everything off the shelves, fill the car with very specialized items, hands off, car self-drives to destination, door opens, guest comes out of their house, maybe brought friends to come shopping with them. They go shopping in the self-driving car, no humans. They grab the item, they walk out, the car detects that the product is left, and they get their card charged. An entire mobile experience, an entire retail experience gone mobile now at the most convenient way that you can imagine it. And this is quite literally just the beginning of the behavior changes we're gonna see over the next probably 5 to 10 years. Because I don't know if you knew this, Toyota just invested with SoftBank a lot of money in self-driving initiatives. Uber's doing self-driving, Apple's doing self-driving, obviously Tesla's doing self-driving. But I don't know if you knew this, that Waymo, a company formed out of Google, is actually planning to, was it this year in 2018, release their first self-driving taxi service. So we're not even really talking about 10 years from now, 5 years, if that. And so there seems that there's going to be a big opportunity in logistics. There's going to be a big opportunity in the mobile experience space. These opportunities are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to transportation being automated, which is a very exciting time. And so it's probably about the time to start thinking about how you're going to integrate with self-driving vehicles, how you're going to modify your service to do it. And it should be very exciting because a self-driving car is a self-driving car, and it's going to probably use the same algorithms to tackle routes and destinations, so it'll be optimized, which means every business, when this hits, will have the same competitive advantages Amazon does. That every business really turns into a distribution hub, and the shipping from that distribution hub, that last mile, to the person who made the purchase, to the guest, to the client, is now something that has opened up to every business. And that is very exciting. And the same thing could go for food trucks. The same thing could go for, when we talked about mobile salons, mobile barbershops, mobile retails. The idea that mobility is going to be automated means that the cost goes down, it becomes accessible for more people, and it should be something that you're considering in your 5-year to 10-year plan. What are we gonna do when it costs us pennies to get something from our store to your door? Thanks for joining us. You can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Spotify. If you prefer video, you can check us out on Vimeo and then YouTube. And we'd love to hear your thoughts about the Guest First movement. So definitely connect with us on Instagram and Twitter at SpruceBot. And then lastly, go ahead and shoot us an email at social@sprucelabs.ai so we can continue this conversation together. All right, until next time.